Do you ever make a fragrance purchase that you just absolutely regret? Fragrances are getting more expensive nowadays, and I always say in our videos, choose quality over quantity in your collection. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys a potential warning about some fragrances that I don't really think are that great, personally for me anyway. So maybe this is just a very subjective personal video. I'm going to go through about 10 fragrances explaining why I didn't like them and why I kind of regret getting them in the first place. Maybe some of these are popular, some of these are less popular, but you'll kind of see my reasoning, and hopefully this video may save you a lot of money in the future. Let's begin. Our own fragrance brand, Atrium Fragrance, will be releasing its own office fragrance called Mr. Elegance. More information regarding this release will be coming in the next few weeks. Make sure you click the link in the description below to be signed up for notifications for when this release is available. It's only going to be available to purchase for 1 week only as a pre-order during the last week of January. So make sure you sign up so you do not miss out. So the first fragrance that might be controversial actually in this video, I don't have the bottle anymore, it is Lattafa Khamrah. Now this fragrance, I kind of got the impression was meant to be a clone of Angel's Share by Kilian. And some people will say, no, it was never meant to be that. I kind of think it was, because if you just look at the bottle design, I kind of think, yeah, they were trying to go for a clone of Angel's Share. It came out shortly after Angel's Share as well, after the hype it got. So I do think it was trying to clone it, but I don't think it was a very accurate clone. It's sort of like 75 to 80% similar, but it's more of a flat, ambery, vanillic fragrance. That's kind of nice. It's not bad for its price, but I thought to myself, I'm never going to reach for this. It doesn't really clone Angel's Share accurately. It's not something I would wear as it is, as a fragrance on its own. But it did have decent performance. I think it got like 6 to 8 hours. So for the price, if you can get it for a really good, cheap discount, you may want to opt for it still. A lot of people do like it, but I'm just telling you guys my personal experience. The second fragrance is Parfum de Marly's Darley. I remember being put onto this fragrance by Demi Rawling a long time ago in one of her videos, where she compared this to Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Mal. It was a fresher, longer lasting Jean Paul Gaultier Le Mal that didn't get a lot of hype or attention. And I kind of thought it was quite interesting how this is a fragrance that came out in 2009, and not a lot of people talked about this PDM release. And I thought it was interesting because I love Jean Paul Gaultier Le Mal, the original. I thought this sounds interesting, let me check it out. And I really liked this when I first got it. It's sort of like a minty, more fresh, powdery, vanillic fragrance, very similar, reminiscent of Jean Paul Gaultier Le Mal, sort of like they took inspiration from there, but it's not exactly a clone. So this is sort of like this spring and summer version of Le Mal with good performance around 6 to 8 hours. It has nice ingredients, a nice blend, decent performance, but I kind of just feel like for the price, it kind of falls flat. It doesn't smell spectacular, that's the issue. And that's what I dislike about some PDM releases, such as Altier, taking inspiration from other designer scents. You're a niche fragrance house, you need to do your own thing and really inspire people. When you compare something like Carlisle to this, for example, I'll easily recommend Carlisle. I'll even have a lot more respect for something like Callan as well, which I actually, funnily enough, gave away my bottle of that as well. But at least that was trying to do its own thing. So that's why I don't really respect Darley that much. I don't really reach for it, so I don't really need it in my collection. You'll probably see it no longer in our videos. 32% of people who watch School of Scent are subscribed to us. If you guys want to see our channel grow, to really help us out, click subscribe. Let's get that number to 40%. Thank you. Tom Ford's Black Orchid Parfum. Don't get me wrong, out of all the concentrations of Black Orchid, this is my favorite. I smelled this in store and I said, yes, this is an easy improvement from the Eau de Parfum, which I used to own. This has more character, it's a little bit more masculine, and has an interesting rum note in here. So it's still a very dense, sweet, floral, vanillic rum fragrance. It has that intensity and the denseness and the thickness that the Black Orchid DNA is known for. Now, although I do like this over the Eau de Parfum, I'm still not reaching for this. It's still just a DNA I just generally don't like. I don't like the Black Orchid DNA. I prefer fragrances like Noir Eau de Parfum instead. So that's still a dark fragrance, but it's just not as sickly and not as intense as something like this. So for me, Black Orchid, the DNA, I've done it. I appreciate it for what it is. It's still very artistic. You still may like it, but for me, it's over. Dior Higher. I acquired a full bottle of this because you literally could not get a sample of this anywhere for our recent Dior buying guide. Now, this is a fragrance that came out in 2003, and it smells like 2003. It smells like a mixture of Chanel's Platinum Egoiste having a baby with Versace pour on. That's how I describe this fragrance. It has like an interesting metallic muskiness to it with a melon note in there. It was a cool idea. I feel like in 2003 this would have been cool, but it smells outdated in my opinion. But it's not bad as a fresher, warm weather / versatile signature fragrance. If you like the early 2000s style, you may like this. If you like fragrances like, let's say, Hugo Boss Hugo, for example, those kind of old school fragrances, you'll enjoy this. It has decent performance, around 6 hours, but yeah, I just feel like this is too outdated, and not in a good way, not in a classic, timeless way. Like, I just feel this is outdated, and that's probably why you don't hear that much talk about this line in general anymore. What do you guys think? Have you tried this? I'm not a fan personally. Le Labo Santal 33. Now, you guys know how much I love to hate on this fragrance. It's very popular, very mainstream. When I went to Barcelona, actually, I smelled this in the air. I feel like it's in reed diffusers now, it's in air fresheners for rooms. You can't escape this. It's very popular. It's got a cult following. I can kind of see the appeal of it. It's kind of like woody, clean, chic, hip in its style. That's kind of like Labo as a brand in general, but this smells to me like pickle juice mixed with dry pencil shavings, which is a bit of a problem, if I must say so. It's got fantastic performance though for a quote unquote freshie, 10 to 12 hours, medium projection. I think, it's definitely a fragrance everyone needs to try. I feel like this is the representative fragrance of Le Labo and what they kind of try to do with their brand. This and Another 13 are two fragrances you have to try from Le Labo, but I am not a fan of this. I'm only keeping this because of references as a reviewer, basically, for my job. Chopard Oud Malaki. This is a nice fragrance. It's not bad. It's a beginner's oud fragrance, but of course, because this is a very relatively affordable fragrance, if you can get it on discounter, so I think at RRP is around £90, but I got this for like £50. So for that price, it's a nice beginner oud scent. Of course, it's not real oud. It's sort of like a synthetic sandalwood-based recreation of what oud should be. I think it's more of a fuzzy, spicy fragrance. It's warm, spicy, fuzzy, not too sweet. So I think if you like fragrances like Burberry's London, you'll like something like this. I think this is just a cool fragrance to have as a reference as a reviewer, because again, it's nice to recommend beginner oud fragrances. You have fragrances like Gucci Intense Oud, Versace Oud Noir, then you have something like this as well, Chopard's Oud Malaki. Now, I don't think it recreates oud very well. That's why I don't really reach for this. It smells a bit too synthetic. It's more of a spicy scent, as I said, rather than an oud fragrance. For real oud, you really just have to save up and, take the damage. It's an expensive ingredient. I think you still need to experience the real thing. Joe loves Cobalt, Patchouli, and Cedar. So I actually got this fragrance because I went to check out the Joe Loves flagship store in central London around Kensington, because I found out that actually Jo Malone, the official brand, is owned by Estee Lauder now. The actual person, Jo Malone, she has nothing to do with the brand. She actually, apparently the story is she had to sign an NDA where she couldn't go to beauty departments for like 10 years because she was too famous, and the brand didn't want her to be seen as promoting other brands, something like that, something insane. And she couldn't create her own fragrance brand for about 10 years, something like that. And then after the 10 years were up, she went ahead and straight away, I think pretty much on the day, made her own brand called Jo Loves, which now specializes in fragrances and candles. So I went to their store to try out her offerings, and she makes some good stuff. The issue with her brand is a lot of stuff doesn't perform. It doesn't seem like they perform as well, and I think just reading about them online, it doesn't seem to perform. This one doesn't perform that great. This is probably their blue offering, like a blue fragrance that has interesting notes like patchouli, cedar. These can be very fresh out of the shower, clean notes to use. It smells very nice and musky. It definitely gives a blue vibe, but I just wish it performed a little bit better. I'm not really reaching for this just because I feel like it's very light and airy. I'm the kind of guy who kind of likes more heavy, more intense, mature, masculine perfumery. So I don't think this is too bad actually, but I'm just not reaching for it personally. And another great scent you should try from her is, I think it's called Plum and Leather, something like that. It's a very nice scent also. Dior Homme 2020. I got this fragrance due to peer pressure from you guys, because you insisted I was crazy for comparing this to Bleu de Chanel and for saying mean things about it. However, to this day, I still compare it to Bleu de Chanel, and I will continue to say mean things about it. I think this is a very plain and basic fragrance. It's mass appealing. Like, I know what they're trying to do with this. It's cool, very much LME, citrus, ISOE super base. It's like a nice, versatile, everyday fragrance. It does have some elegance to it. It does have that Dior chicness there, but I just would never see myself reaching for this. I'd reach for Bleu de Chanel first, personally. Again, I'm gonna insist on that, and I just feel like it's very plain. I would always recommend Dior Homme Sport 2021 over this. I feel like if you have that fragrance, I'm not sure if you need this fragrance, honestly, hence why I don't reach for it. Chanel's Pour Monsieur Eau de Parfum. Between the two Pour Monsieur, so the Eau de Toilette and this is definitely the better version. It's more modern, it's cool, it's ambery, complex, barbershop traditional perfumery, but brought more into modern times. So it smells mature, smooth, well blended, clean, elegant, and the amber note is the main factor of it here. So it's got that elegant warmth to it, which is a cool idea for office fragrances. But when something like Dior's Eau Sauvage Parfum exists, which has a similar idea but much better performance, I just find myself not really reaching for this that much because it does still smell a tiny bit outdated, actually, I will say. Eau Sauvage Parfum, I feel like modernized that Eau Sauvage DNA better than this fragrance did with the Monsieur DNA. It's got 6 hours longevity, which is a little bit limited. It's just, I don't know, it feels a little bit lackluster, it feels a little bit flat. Probably not the best release from Chanel, but I still think this is a very solid fragrance. I still think I gave this like a 9 out of 10, and I would stand by that. I think on its own it stands well, but for me, it's just not something I'm reaching for. And lastly, Christian Dior's Ambre Nuit. Don't get me wrong, this is probably still a 10 out of 10 fragrance. It's probably one of the best from the private line from Dior. Ambre Nuit is a very elegant, beautiful, sensual, unisex fragrance based around the notes of rose and amber. So this is the kind of fragrance for people who like things like YSL's Tuxedo. I feel like it would be a versus battle between these two directly. It's a very similar vibe, but that is a bit more spicy than this. They all have similar ingredients, so like this focuses more on the rose, whilst Tuxedo focuses more on the spices. This is elegant, beautiful, decent performance, around 8 hours of soft projection, probably one of the best from the private line. But for me, I own a fragrance called Xerjoff's 40 Knots. I'm not sure if you've heard of that fragrance, guys. I mention it occasionally on this channel, and I feel like it has similar amber molecules to Ambre Nuit. I kind of feel like you don't have to own both of those fragrances. I prefer 40 Knots. This is kind of just a fragrance I don't really apply on myself. I kind of just smell it for a reference. I like the perfumery here. It's more of a reviewer's reference fragrance. I like rose fragrances. You don't have that much to choose from as a man. So it's kind of cool that we have this. And yeah, I just don't wear it personally myself. That concludes this video, guys. What are your thoughts? Are there fragrances that you regret purchasing? Do you feel like they were a waste of money for you? Do you just feel that you just don't reach for them? Let us know your submissions in the comments down below. Make sure to check out our previous video I did on fragrance buying regrets. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.